How do I start an F-16? The question's real, I stole an F-16. Flip the master, all the lights begin to feel. I stole an F-16. Set the fuel pump, start the number 2. I stole an F-16. Engines whining as the turbines chew. I stole an F-16. Turn the RER power on bright. I stole an F-16. Horizon centered, the line set right. I stole an F-16. Oh, watch the gauges and the needles climb. I stole an F-16. Wait till 20, it will take its time. I stole an F-16. Throttle back down to idle mark. I stole an F-16. Jet breathes deep with a rumbling spark. I stole an F-16. Unlock the gate and push it.
Hey,
free.
thanks so much, Solio.
I stole
What's up?
an F-16. The bird comes alive with a roar of glee. I stole an F-16. Well,
Master Admiral Gibbs. Nice to make your acquaintance finally.
I stole an F-16. Right.
I can't hear you. Oh, yep, I can hear you. North, it says your device is not connected. Nope, we'll get him back in. Just waiting on North and true republicanism. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
Are we flexing now?
We are. Ah. All right, and we are live. Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Corbin Sales. I'm a liberal content creator, streamer, commentator, and pundit. You can find me on YouTube, X, Twitter, same thing, Instagram or TikTok. Today, I am hosting a debate, a very special conversation between 4 Republicans on whether or not MAGA actually upholds conservatism. So the structure of this debate will be, we're going to do introductions for everyone, then we're going to do a 2-minute opener, and then after that, we'll have floor for open debate. I want to be as removed from the conversation as possible, so I only have 2 ground rules. 1, please try to not interrupt each other, and 2, try to stick to the topic as much as possible. All righty. Connor, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I would argue a never Trump, but also a real Republican. I think MAGA is departed.
Oh, we're
from
doing
any
introductions
sense.
first, and then we're going to do openers after introductions.
Just my bad. Then cut it off at that part.
All right. Admiral Gibbs.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Admiral Gibbs, political and variety streamer, and here to talk about some fun stuff.
All right. North, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm North. I am a Never Trump Republican, otherwise known as a real Republican. You can find me on Twitter and on YouTube, fighting to retake the Republican Party. That's my main goal.
All right. And Luke, aka True Republicanism, introduce yourself.
What's good? I'm Luke. 15. I debated Corbin one time. I like getting into politics. Yeah, that's about it.
All righty. Now, Connor, opening statement. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, I think there's half a dozen political philosophies. One of them is from Edmund Burke. The other one is environmental conservatism. The other one is social conservatism. The other one is fiscal conservatism. And I think neoconservatism is the other one. And I think Trump fails on all 5 conservatisms. In reference to Edmund Burke, I could talk about his philosophy, but you're supposed to defer to institutions because institutions have wisdom. I think by trying to overthrow the Republic of the United States, Trump has proven that he's not a Burkean conservatism. He's not an environmental conservative because the Bureau of Land Management tried to sell tens of millions of acres of public land, effectively backstabbing the country. He's not a neoconservative because he slashed PEPFAR, slashed USAID, backstabbed Ukraine, and abandoned the world from a United States neoconservative perspective. He's not a social conservative because, in my opinion, there's credible evidence that he sexually abused 14 to 17-year-old girls, that he's currently participating in a cover-up to that effect, that he's cheated on his wife with a pornographic actress, and all in all, he's a massive piece of shit. I think he takes the Lord's name in vain by pretending to be Christian, but he's anti-Christian effectively. So I don't think he's a social conservative. I also don't think he's a fiscal conservative. Doge was supposed to cut $2 trillion from the American federal budget. They ended up recommending $150 billion worth of cuts to Congress. Congress only cut $10 billion, and that $10 billion is almost directly responsible for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths over the next 5 years. So I think in reference to fiscal, social, neo, environmental, and Burkean, MAGA and Trump have failed in 5 separate categories of conservatism.
Alrighty. Excellent opener. Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Sorry. We're still trying out the new tech. Yeah, so I'm going to sit here, and I'm sure that my opponents here are going to sit here and try to tell you a lot of fugazi, ticky-tack word game bullshit, which is exactly what we've already heard from Counterpoints opening. If we look at Trump, yeah, I agree. Trump's not what you would call a traditional Republican. I'd argue he's a 90s dim. However, as we've seen, everything has moved to the left due to the Overton window shifting, and it's crazy that now I, an actual conservative, have to sit here and debate whether or not he is a conservative with some people here that I'm not even going to argue are rhinos. They're what we like to call DL. Duplicitous liars. If we sit here and go down the list of things that Trump has done and list of policies that they're proposing, it's pretty clear which side is on the side of conservatism. We can look at issues like border control. We can listen to economic issues. We can look at other things all the way down. I'm sure we'll get into it. It's real simple. One of us is sitting here vouching for what actual conservative values are. The other one is going to sit here and dress up things in pretty little words and lies.
Thank you very much. All right, Luke.
Oh, shit. All right, yeah, so I think the best person to look at when you look at traditional conservatism is Ronald Reagan, right? One of the leaders, one of the most historical influencers of the Republican Party. One of the main things that he advocated for were reduced taxes. Trump has done this by delivering the largest tax cut in history. He reduced people who make 30 to 80K 15% less in taxes. He also reduced government spending. He ended taxpayer-funded sex changes. While you say Doge is ineffective, I still think it is a good attempt at reducing government spending. He also is a big fan of deregulation. He's incentivized Made in America, which he reward tax cuts to companies that make their products in America. And yeah, I think that's about as good as an opener as I'll give.
All right, Mr. North.
I think it's pretty clear that the current MAGA movement is not conservative at all. They've abandoned every single principle that the Conservative Party or the Republican Party used to uphold. They are now the party of big government, increasing taxes, which, by the way, a tariff is a tax. They're the party of increased centralization within the federal government. They're the party of suggesting Second Amendment gun regulations. I mean, what are we talking about here? MAGA does not have any principles. All MAGA is populist. It's not conservative at all. That's all I have to say.
All right. Excellent openers from all of you. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Can y'all tell me?
I mean, I don't think I heard a single refutation of anything I said. Luke said tax cuts, and Gibbs said border control.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, would you argue that
Gibbs, you're muted.
You could be a border hawk and be a fucking Democrat.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, I mean, when we're sitting here talking about national sovereignty and we're talking about immigration, yeah, sure, we could be a Democrat. It's crazy that the '90s Dems have a more conservative position about protecting those things than the current Republicans at the time. But it's shifted, like I said, through the Overton window. We can tell that, yeah, now these things are conservative issues. We want smaller government. Doge is designed to do smaller government. Yeah, it could be taken advantage of by the Dems to grow bigger. But when we were sitting here talking about what's conservatism, you know what's not conservatism? Voting down ballot for everybody that's going to sit here and put forth socialist leftist policies. You can't tell me, hey, maybe you all have a problem with Trump, but when we're going to sit here, we're going to argue about the rest of the Republican Party, that you're going to go and vote down ballot for everybody else that's in the Bernie Bros camp, the AOC's camp, the Kamala camp, and say, hey, this is a good thing, whenever you're actually arguing for conservative values. No, that's fake news. Sorry, don't believe it.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about you specifically. Are you arguing that you haven't advocated for down ballot voting for other Democrats?
I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Well,
You absolutely have. You've argued against the MAGA movement. You've argued against Abbott, who's not a MAGA person. I can sit here and point to other
Abbott's
examples.
not a MAGA person.
Abbott is absolutely. Hold on, Abbott.
The National Guard setting out arrest warrants against politicians that didn't want to show up. I mean,
well, Abbott's not a MAGA movement. I mean, if you know anything about Abbott,
okay. Do you think Greg Abbott, when doing his redistricting, was operating by himself?
I think that Abbott, when he was fighting the Biden administration about the border security
under
issues.
the Trump administration, under the redistricting.
This is a ridiculous obfuscation, right? First of all, like I said, when he was fighting Biden, he was doing it by himself. If you know anything about Abbott, Abbott's basically a Texas nationalist.
We're not
He's been working
talking
for
about
them.
Biden.
Hold on. We are talking about conservatism, right? We're talking about what is conservatism. That's what I was told the panel was about.
Can you define it?
Can you define it? No, I mean you can list all these different ones. When I'm sitting here talking about conservatism, I can look to somebody like Abbott, who's basically a Texas nationalist, who's been fighting for these kind of movements, who helped the Republican Party in Texas absorb the Texas national movement, who's argued to sit here for border control. He's argued for lower government, smaller government. He's argued for more economic freedom. And then I sit here and go, oh, y'all are working against this guy who's been doing this for 40 years, since before Trump was even a fucking a public official. And then you're going to go, he's MAGA. Yeah, that's just the dumbass take.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, but Gibbs, you already blew up your own argument, though, because you said 90s Dems supported border control. So were 90s Dems conservatives?
They would be conservatives by today's metric. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so hold on. Can you define conservatism real quick?
Can you define conservatism?
I can.
You listed all these other things that aren't actual conservatism. Yeah, cool.
Do you want me to?
You just did. And here's my point. Conservatism can be defined by a plethora of different ways.
Wait, did you ask a question and then keep talking? Because that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. It's because it's rhetoric, my son. Maybe you should look it up in a book how to do it. It's good stuff. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to sit here and give us all this
No.
bullshit about Berkey and conservatism, I'm just going to sit here and start comparing all your policies that you propose to National Socialism, which are basically the same thing. So we just know this is Fugazi word games, if we're being honest.
Okay. So I could define environmental, neocon, social con, and fiscal conservative if you want. Do you want me to?
No, not particularly, because I'd rather not be bored out of my
Okay.
mind for the next 30 minutes.
Okay. So do you want to talk about how there's 5 different fiscal conservative philosophies and Trump fails on all of them?
Sure, let's hear how he
hold
does
on.
that. Go ahead.
Okay, so he's not a fiscal conservative
Okay.
because fiscal conservatism is about making sure that we don't destroy the country through reckless debt. Luke made the argument that we could just start with one. Let's start with fiscal conservatism.
Sure.
Luke made the argument that the reason why Donald Trump is a conservative is because he cut the federal budget. However, he omitted the fact that he cut the federal budget by 0.16%.
Hey, that's a start. I mean,
And he cut taxes.
that's called, yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. Those
And
are
it's
both
called
conservatives.
running a $10 trillion deficit. That's not fiscal conservative.
Oh, yes. Listen, hold on.
Okay,
Hold on.
think
This is a dishonest
hold on,
reframing.
Hold on, one at a
Okay,
time.
Admiral,
One at a
Admiral
time.
Gibbs,
I will
Admiral
mute
Gibbs.
you, everyone. One at a
Admiral
time.
Gibbs, I have a very important question.
Sure.
Does the Trump administration, led by the current MAGA Republican Party, increasing the deficit by $10 trillion, is that fiscal conservatism? Yes or no?
It could be. It could be if it
It's
leaves.
not.
It could be. It
That
could
is
be.
not what
It
fiscal-
could.
oh my
Hold on,
gosh.
it could be if the
Admiral
intent.
Gibbs, respond.
If the intent is to eventually get rid of it, right? We look at things like, okay, fiscal conservatism.
no
you know,
intent to
you
get
know
rid
what
of it.
is fiscal
Oh my
conservatism? Cutting taxes. That is fiscal conservatism. You're lowering
it's
taxes
not.
on
Not if you're
Americans.
running a higher
Yes, it is.
deficit. You
Yes,
don't
it
know
is.
what words
Second,
mean. This is why talking to you is like talking to a monkey.
Secondly, when I sit here and look at, okay, I know I'm surprised we haven't brought the tariffs, but here's something crazy. Whenever I can go look at the tariffs, and we've posted a surplus in the last 2 months, that is fiscal conservatism, and that's working against the deficit. Would you agree that a government posting a surplus is working against the deficit? What is a tariff? What do you think a tariff is? Because I know what
It's an
tariff is.
import tax. That's
Oh,
what
it's
it
an
is.
import tax. Is that what?
That's what
I've never
fucking
heard
is.
that argument before. How about it's a negotiation tactic used by a government against foreign governments in order to achieve a goal? Would you agree that a tariff is also that?
No, okay. You are running 2 separate lines of. Okay, you're doing
No,
the
I mean,
double thing.
it's
You're doing
called-
the
it's
double
called-
thing.
it's called
Okay,
holding two
you can
ideas
have
in your
two-
hands.
You can have 2 arguments, right? You can have one argument that tariffs are a negotiating tactic,
Which they
They're
are.
temporary and they're meant to be discarded. Or you can have the
Or
argument
not.
that tariffs are increasing revenue for the federal government so that they can pay off the deficit. You can't maintain both of these.
I
lines of
absolutely
argument at the exact same time.
can. I absolutely
No,
can.
you can't. No, that's literally
Let me explain
contradictory
how.
with
No,
each
it's
other.
not. It's not.
doublethink.
No,
That's what
it's
it
North,
is.
let
it's
Gibbs
not
respond.
double think. It's not double think. It's real simple. It's called situational awareness. I know that's something that you're confused about, clearly, right? So if I have a situational problem where, hey, I put a tariff on a country and we renegotiate trade deals, and then we leave the tariff there, or we have a reduced tariff, but it's higher than it was before. Guess what? A, we can negotiate our deal. And then D, we can lower the deficit if it stays in place. Those are 2 things that can absolutely happen at the same time. And if you're saying that's not happening, then you're just retarded.
Okay, so you're in favor of negotiating. Okay, you're in favor of tariffs, or you think that tariffs are being used as a negotiation, but in the end, you also want the tariffs to be increased?
That's not what I said.
That is what you said. You said
No.
that in the end, the tariffs will be increased
That's not what I said.
on our side. That is what you said.
Nope. No. That's
Yes.
that's
So
not
you
what I
love
said.
taxes.
Yeah,
taxes
you love,
are good.
You love
No,
taxes.
what I said once again was it's
Taxes are
situational. It's once again I
Fiscal
said it's
conservative, by the way,
situational.
loves taxes.
It's
Good job,
You
it's
love
Gibbs.
taxes.
situational.
That's what he is.
Hold on, one at a
He's
time.
the
Everyone
pro
one at a time.
tax.
North.
No.
Everyone
No,
one
no.
at a time. I'm gonna let Connor go, and then Gibbs, and then I want to see if Luke wants to comment on anything.
Dude,
after that.
you don't need to.
Sorry.
Like we don't know what words mean, okay? Fiscal conservatism does not mean running a $10 trillion deficit. Fiscal conservatism does not mean increasing the largest consumer tax increase in probably a century. That's not fiscal conservatism. So we're not even we don't even agree. Like, dude, we can't have a complex conversation about policy because we don't even agree what words mean.
Yeah, I mean, this is funny. I love the idea that
This is funny.
Yeah, it is
It's funny. I don't know what
I thought we could just let people interrupt. Yeah, I mean,
It's
okay.
funny.
Well, this
It's
is what
funny. Raising taxes.
Connor,
Raising
let Gibbs respond.
taxes is
Well,
fiscal
this
conservatism.
is what this
I'll
is.
mute you.
Well,
Gibbs respond.
I mean, I'll tell you what's funny. I will tell you what's funny is this great Mensa candidate over here sitting here with his great background in, I don't know, being a basically glorified UPS driver in the military is going to explain to me what fucking words mean. That's fucking hilarious. It's a goddamn retarded is what it really is. And I'll tell you another thing is Burkean conservatism, which Connor has sat here and tried to argue many, many times, is basically just progressivism pretending to be conservatism, right? So I don't want to sit here and hear anything about what words mean from a duplicitous liar who does actually try to get Democrats elected down ballot that are not just
Okay.
I hate MAGA. So when you're going to sit here and say this bullshit, like at least I'm impressed you can say it with a straight face because it's honestly a very good lying tactic. I'm very impressed with you. Good job.
Okay, am I muted or no?
No, you're good. I went to.
Okay, so hold on. So to summarize what was just said, I'm a liar, but fiscal conservatism is cutting taxes and adding $10 trillion to the deficit over the next 5 years. And fiscal conservatism is raising the highest consumer taxes in a century. That's fiscal conservatism.
No,
right,
fiscal
I wanna
conservatism. First, fiscal conservatism.
Gibbs, that's the dumbest shit I've ever
fiscal
heard in my
conservatism.
life.
First, I do want to respond. I do want to respond.
Before anyone responds to anything, I want to give Luke a chance to butt in here because he hasn't spoken much yet. Luke, do you have anything
Luke
to
is
respond to
busy
anything
playing
that
on
Connor
his
said?
phone.
What?
Connor, do you have?
How is Trump
Luke, do you
fiscal
have-
conservative, Luke?
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, he sticks to a lot of the core beliefs. While he does stray from a lot of ideas, and he's not typically 100% with the path. One thing he has done that a lot of conservatives have done throughout the years is really bringing Republican voters, like out to vote and really encouraging them to vote, which is one thing that we can all appreciate as conservatives.
Okay, hold on. How is he a fiscal conservative, Luke?
Well, as I said, he sticks to some of the core beliefs that I mentioned earlier.
Well, hold on. So can you respond to the
you-
fact that I told you a moment ago, you said that he cut federal spending. What I came back to you with, which I did not add an addendum to, I love this addendum. He cut, okay, Doge said they were going to cut $2 trillion. That's 33% of the federal budget. Doge ended up recommending $150 billion to Congress, which, while, not as big as $2 trillion, it's a fuckload of cash. We can agree with that. What ended up getting passed, though, in the rescissions package was $10 billion, which was 0.16% of the budget. And not only that, $6.5 billion of this package is projected to kill 3 million people over the next 5 years.
Well, hold on. That doesn't mean anything.
Hold on, that's not even getting into account the fact that
Everyone shut up and let Luke respond.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I'm just curious to where you got the idea that's going to kill 3 million people.
No, hold on, Luke.
Okay,
Before he goes,
he
Luke.
asked
Hold
me a
on.
question.
I don't care.
He
You
asked me a
interrupted me 3
question.
times now. Luke.
Let Connor respond.
Well,
Okay, let the
all
chimpanzee
right.
talk,
Then
and then
I
I'll
would
go
like to
after
go
him.
as soon as he's done. Yeah. Okay.
No, I'll wait for the chimpanzee. Go ahead.
No, Connor,
Okay,
you can-
that's fine. I'll be the chimpanzee. I'll play the game.
Am I
That's
the
fine.
chimpanzee
No,
or
no,
is Gibbs the
I'm the
chimpanzee?
chimpanzee. The Mensa UPS driver is calling me a chimpanzee. But all right, so what I'm sitting here talking about is when he's talking about, what's fiscal conservative? Connor's complaint is Doge didn't do enough, and so therefore it's not fiscal conservatism. That's fucking stupid. At least it's a start, right? As opposed to what Connors likes to vote for, which is, hey, let's give $6 million to, I don't know, let's have drag queens doing dancing in Haiti or some bullshit. That's what he thinks fiscal conservatism is. When I'm sitting here talking about fiscal conservatism, hold on, I'm not done. When I'm sitting here when I'm talking about fiscal conservatism, we're gonna use Nazi buzzwords again. Big surprise there. But anyway, when I'm sitting here talking about fiscal conservatism, I'm talking about changes that benefit the economy and shrink government, right? Which Doge absolutely does with the intent to shrink government under the Trump administration. I'm talking about, he's made trade deals and he's sitting here put tariffs that are going to benefit us here and cause local prices maybe to go up initially and then drop after we build the supply chains locally. Just like the big grocer HEB, the number one grocer in America, the Walmart model. Now, if Connor actually understood economics, he would understand how this works. But since the man's biggest economic thing is working for Uncle Sam, he doesn't fucking know shit.
Okay, now that the orangutan's done,
Good one.
Luke. So
I know I mogged you. That's why you
PEPFAR,
call me that.
PEPFAR costs $6.5 billion per year. It was passed by bipartisan legislation by George W. Bush in 2003. PEPFAR provides retroviral medication for HIV and AIDS. That way, women in Africa who have HIV will not pass on HIV to their kids. And then also people who already have HIV won't die from the disease. This is credited with saving 25 million human lives over the past 20 years. That was part of the 0.16% budgetary cuts.
And is that
So it
fiscal
predicted
conservatism,
in the
Connor?
next
Is
5
that
years
fiscal
to
conservatism?
kill 3 million people.
Wait, hold on. How does 25 million people die, which is doubtful at best, have anything to do with fiscal conservatism? I would say arguing that's liberalism at best and progressivism at worst when we're going to sit here and say, hey, let's use American tax dollars to pay for fucking Zambians.
Well, we could go to neoconservatism next since you don't understand fiscal conservatism.
Well, I mean, you clearly don't because you're equating millions of people dying to economics, which has nothing to do with either.
I didn't. You did, but that's because
that's what you just said.
Fully human.
Yeah,
like I have 6% Neanderthal DNA. I'm pretty sure you're cooking like 20%.
And I'm still smart.
Understand at all, like spending money now to prevent like shit from happening in the future? Like, do you understand that concept?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, I'm definitely familiar with the idea of the... Hold on. I'm familiar with the idea of the pain now versus the pain later. When I explain how fiscal conservatism is meeting supply chains to be established here versus, hey, we're going to be spending money over... you asked me a question. Hold on. He asked me... Hold on. You asked me a question. I can't answer... I got to answer the question. I got to answer the question you just asked me. If you're going to ask me if I understand how this works, and I explain how fiscal conservatism is a policy that's going to lead supply chains here, the pain now or the pain later, which is going to reduce costs later, then hold on, this because they're related. I know it's hard for you to follow the point. If I'm going to build a supply chain here, and which is what Trump's doing with the tariffs, that is fiscal conservatism, not whatever bullshit you're saying. We raise taxes, and then do whatever. Come on, give me a break, bro. Come on, let's be honest.
You know what tariffs are? Tariffs aren't fiscal conservatism. Tariffs are protectionism. It's isolationism. That's what it is.
Oh, it's isolationism.
It's protectionism. It's social. That's what I'll call it, socialist even. It's
okay. I have hope that Luke is a member of the human species. I would like to hear him address what I said.
Luke.
So we cut 0.16% of the budget. You said it was a step in the right direction. I said that is projected to kill 3 million people over the next 5 years. What's your response?
Well, we obviously know that there are other problems going on in the world, right? A lot of problems that could save lives, right? And we could address almost every single country in that matter. Right. The question is, how far are you willing to go with spending in that? Do we take every country and try to solve all of their problems for them?
No, but if you wanted to move to neoconservatism, so Gibbs said, okay, well, spending money on foreign soft power is not fiscal conservatism. I agree. It's not fiscal conservative to spend money on foreign countries when you're already running on debt. However, neoconservatism, philosophically, Reagan was probably the biggest neoconservative in American history, next to Teddy Roosevelt. Okay. He believed that American soft power and hard power should be projected overseas in order to defend the free world. And I would argue that while PEPFAR and USAID are not fiscally conservative because we're spending $10 billion overseas, I would argue that they are bastions of neoconservatism, which is spreading the influence of the free world via soft power and military power. So if you guys want to move to how Trump is not a neoconservative, I'd be happy to discuss that.
Neocons don't even agree with you. Like, this is what's insane. You're arguing first. Hold on. He admitted just now that those programs that he was asking Luke about, whether we're not fiscally conservative, hashtag in thread rhino, right? Like, not even a rhino. Like I said, duplicitous lying snake oil salesman. That's what we got right here. Thank you.
Admiral Gibbs, are you a neocon? Just out of curiosity.
I would argue that I used to be, maybe.
No, so you aren't. Okay. Do you think that MAGA is a represents neoconservatism?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so then we don't even have to address that. You agree with us that MAGA is not neoconservative at all.
Okay,
yeah, no, I would say they're populist right.
Before we move on, I would like to ask Luke though, because he used Reagan as the pinnacle of conservatism. So Reagan was an avid anti-communist hawk. He ran deficits and spent shitloads of cash on the military and spent shitloads of cash on foreign interventions in order to burn out the Soviet Union. So do you think that Reagan in this regard is not conservative, I suppose, would be one question. And I guess the follow-up question is, do you think that Trump is following in Reagan's footsteps in that he's advocating for American power on the world stage? Because I would actually argue that MAGA is largely a movement that's trying to be increasingly isolationist.
Well, my first question to you be, why do you think that we want to be isolationists in a sense of world power?
I would say that if I was to steel man the MAGA movement, they're sick of spending trillions of dollars overseas without a discernible result. They're sick of the blowback from foreign wars. They're sick of being involved in the Middle East and North Africa. They're sick of Europe sleeping under the protective blanket that we provide them. And they're sick of Asian countries sleeping under the security blanket that we provide them. So they want to withdraw from the world stage.
Well, as we saw, the MAGA movement was, when the Iran war first broke out, was heavily supportive of Donald Trump's decision. People like Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, were heavily supportive of it. He even said himself, the Iranians gave Trump no choice but to come to the table, right? And the MAGA movement, say what you want, we're right there behind him, right? So, I think the idea that Americans want to be removed from the world stage is, I wouldn't say is entirely true. Also, Trump was the first one to meet with Putin, and it was the first one to meet with Putin since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. So we're obviously trying to get our feet in the game here.
Okay, my counter argument to this, because this is something that I'm actually pretty passionate about, is that Donald Trump in his first few months in power brought Zelensky to the White House, embarrassed him on purpose, cut off intel sharing, cut off munitions, cut off the ability for them even to sell weapons to Ukraine. And as a result, thousands, if not tens of thousands of Ukrainians died. So why? And then you brought up Israel. What I would say is that Trump has taken extreme amounts of heat from the MAGA base because they say, oh, he's MAGA. He's make Israel great again. He's a simp for Israel. So as an example, I agree with you. He was interventionist in reference to Israel and Iran. But I think that Ukraine is the perfect example of him withdrawing from the world stage.
Well, the reason why I use this example is because you said that Trump wanted to move away from the world stage. Whether you agree with those decisions or not, you have to agree that it's a point to be a part of that world stage and to try to take action. Whether you agree with the actions
but I would
or not.
argue that attempting to withdraw from the world stage and only coming out when an important ally gets attacked would be a movement towards isolationism, and therefore it would be an example of Trump and the MAGA movement not being a neoconservative movement.
In which sense did he pull out?
I would say that screwing over Ukraine the way that he did. And then also I would say that the Iranian policy was fairly limited, where effectively it was just strikes against the nuclear sites and then he backed away.
Yeah, this is a dumbass foreign policy take. Hold on, I gotta say something here. First of all, just because you're sitting,
Gibbs.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, my brother, but when I'm sitting here hearing what he's saying, it's just rampant idiocracy. Okay, first of all, Ukraine is, for all intents and purposes, not even a first-tier client state. They're a second-tier client state. And when you have an uppity son of a bitch like Zelensky, who's arguably not even actually elected the proper way, but we don't have to dive into that, and because I'm actually pro-funding the Ukraine war, but we're sitting here having an uppity bitch like Zelensky come in here and not even wear a suit to the White House because he wants to send a message or some bullshit, and then he's going to sit here and ask Data Trump Trump and Daddy America for some money. And yeah, guess what? You're going to play by our rules. And so when he got uppity, he got slapped like the little bitch ass he was. And now, guess what? We just opened up even more funding and even more weapons just within the last week, like the Tomahawk deal, more than Biden ever gave. We also negotiated a mineral rights deal with Ukraine. These are all expanding American power under the neocon principle. We can look at Iran. You know what's expanding American power? When we go in there and bomb the fuck out of them with using our old tech that's getting replaced by the B-23 Raider or B-21 Raider, and we had the B-2 bomber. We're getting old tech going in there and dropping bombs on them. And guess what? They have no idea what's happening. And then we have Israel handing all our weapons for us. Why would we deploy U.S. troops to the Middle East where it's just a quagmire? Instead, when we can just let Israel whoop their ass for us effectively. And then finally today, it looks like Hamas has capitulated. So it looks like once again, Trump dub, crying baby back bitches here, zero.
So hold on. Is MAGA neoconservative or not?
I mean, in some respects, they can be. It's all, once again, situational. It doesn't matter whether or not it's actual, traditional, exact neoconservatism, whenever we are more to the right than what you're proposing. You're proposing for socialism. That's not that's not conservative at all.
No,
I don't know you. Oh, north. To be fair, I don't know your positions, north. So I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I know his positions, and they're socialist, borderline national socialist. I don't know.
No, Admiral Gibbs. I can say that you're the socialist here for supporting Donald Trump, especially with when it comes to Trump literally taking over parts of U.S. companies. You think Trump buying like 10% of Intel stock? You think that's not socialist at all?
Do I think that Trump? Sure, I would argue that it is somewhat socialist.
It's somewhat socialist?
Yeah. Guess what? Every big government is somewhat socialist. I mean, I don't want to turn into Fabian Liberty and start arguing about these kind of bullshit. But yeah,
hold on. I thought Trump was shrinking the government. What's this whole big
government thing? Hold on. It is shrinking. However, when you're talking about economic gain and Trump's an economic guru, you know what? Guess what? If they decide they're going to invest in stock and stimulate the American economy, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a libertarian. Yeah, it is a little bit socialist. There are some socialist aspects to the United States government in general. So if they're going to buy stocks in order to increase our economic benefit, I'm all for that if they can actually see it work. Now, you think Intel is going to go down in cost as we sit here and have supply chains built and chips built here? No, absolutely not. Instead, what we're probably going to see is an increase in value.
I'm a promoter of free market economics, and I don't like it when the government is interfering with our free capitalist market, because that's what they're doing right now. They're creating a conflict of interest. And you can argue that they're maybe like artificially raising the prices of the stock, but that doesn't actually do anything for like the economy at all. It just makes it look like better superficially. Like
North, let me ask you a question.
Like $15 trillion into the economy, right? That doesn't mean that the economy is going to be doing better. Like maybe on paper you could say it's doing better.
Let me ask you a question. All right, so and I've talked about this a lot. This is the big reason I got into like the debate world is because how it was affecting me locally. Right, when I'm sitting here looking at certain industries, and I'm going to speak to ranching once again, and I can look at subsidies. Right, going to certain industries where they actually absolutely crushed one industry at the benefit of the other, and then eventually crash. Right, like corn subsidies, like we have some of these grain subsidies. Right? All these things they end up leading to a crash. Sure, I agree in socialist aspect that would be bad. I don't like that. In fact, I'm a rancher. I don't want beef subsidies, even though we'll probably get something. I don't want that, right? Because I think that's bad. That's it. Hold on. When I look at this, when I look at these things, yeah, there are some aspects to go. However, if I'm looking for economic gain and I'm an Intel stockholder and I'm looking for future investments, I think the U.S. government, when they're pushing stuff like tariffs, which are going to and then have trade deals with Rwanda for rare earth minerals, I think it behooves us in situational circumstances to maybe play the game. I'm not a full-on libertarian, and unless you're a full-on libertarian, you also believe in some sort of government control over certain areas. And this is one of those times where we're going to have benefits to them doing this. Oh, so then you're a libertarian or what?
I believe in free market economics. I think the less you have a more prosperous capitalist economy, the less interference the government puts into it. Like, is that not
sure?
So we can agree with that.
Would you agree that like if of the two choices that we've had, like I'm not going to argue about the primary. Maybe you voted for somebody else in the Republican primary. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know your history. You know, if we're going to sit here and argue that when it comes to election time, right, and it's Kamala Harris, the one who wants to use socialist policy spending, like spending American taxpayer dollars on programs like dance classes for Haitian male prostitutes in Haiti, or have, hey, I don't know, this is a real one. This is one she actually advocated for to the ACLU, spending taxpayer dollars on, I know it's hilarious, it's crazy socialist, taxpayer dollars on yeah, I will. This is a real thing. You can look it up. She had, yeah, this is a real thing. They wanted, no. That's not what I'm talking about. That was illegal aliens. She wanted illegal aliens to get transgender surgeries. That was actually a policy she advocated to the ACLU. You can look that up. That Trump was lying when he said that. And then secondly, right now the government shut down by the party that you're arguing against, the Never Trumpers, the Dems. They're the ones who are actually advocating to shut the U.S. government down right now for the soft power that Connor wants. One of those things being $3.6 million to Haiti for baking classes and dance classes for Haitian male prostitutes. This is a real policy happening right now. I guess that's not socialist.
Look,
Okay.
Admiral Gibbs, when he entered this conversation, he was talking about, he was trying to obfuscate, what's the proper, how do you say it? Obfuscate?
Obfuscate.
Yeah. He was basically saying that me and Connor were going to be telling lies, bending the truth. But in reality, when you look at what Admiral Gibbs is saying, it's so fucking batshit insane, and he's lying through his teeth. Like, I would love for people to just like recognize that everything that's coming out of his mouth is just untrue. It's
not untrue. I literally today, Senator Kennedy came out and was just talking about it. I can point to multiple senators today talking about it. We can talk about it. It's literally in the funding bill that the Dems put forth, saying, hey, we want this to be passed. If we want the government not to be shut down, you have to re-implement these things. So no, I'm not lying. Maybe just open up a book or maybe turn on the news once in a while.
Open up a book, yeah, obviously.
Right,
that's where I'll find the transgender Haitians getting their.
I mean, nobody said anything about transgender Haitians. I said illegal aliens get transgender surgery.
I'm gonna see if we can pull Luke back in. Luke, did you have any commentary on anything?
She said it to the ACLU. You're hold on. What real quick? We go to North. Are you disagreeing that Kamala to the ACLU said this?
I haven't heard of it at all. No.
Okay, well then, once again, don't laugh because it sounds ludicrous. When Trump said that on TV, I was in a debate with a bunch of people. We were all watching it live. All of them laughed.
You know what
I laughed. I laughed just like you did, and I said, "Ha, that's crazy. No way, that's fucking true." Google. Guess what? Fucking true.
No, it's not up for me to Google your own claims.
I don't have to. I gave you the claim. Right. I mean, we know it's true. I gave you. Hold on. I can even. Hold on. I can give you the evidence. Hold on.
Shut the fuck up, both of you. Shut the fuck up. All right. You guys had your little spat. Luke, did you have any response to anything that North or Connor may have said?
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to what me and Counterpoint were debating about. Whereas Trump doesn't want to be involved in the world main stage. While you gave arguments about how the things he did were wrong, which we could talk about all day if you'd like, but how he wants to go away from the world main stage is I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Okay. Well, what I would do just to like split the difference, because we still, if we're tracking the thread of the conversation, I think I made the argument that there's 5 separate conservatisms that I don't think Trump is. North and I think are in agreement that we've articulated why we don't think Donald Trump is a fiscal conservative. I think that's relatively clear. For neoconservatism, I'll split the difference with you. And I will say that, as an example, Trump's talked about abandoning NATO, right? He's talked about withdrawing from NATO. That's unconscionable to me. That's like horrific. It's one of the most horrific things that I've ever heard from a geopolitical perspective. However, Trump likes playing 5D chess and using leverage and being hyperbolic about stuff to get what he wants. And through that rhetoric in Trump 1.0, he actually got the Europeans to increase their funding for NATO. So if you want to split the difference, and also MAGA typically uses neoconservative as a slur. So if you guys want to say that Trump is an appropriate level of American interventionist on the world stage, he's just not as interventionist as neoconservatives want him to be. I could give him a 0.5 in the neoconservative category if we wanted to split the difference.
Well, talking from a very objective view of just being involved in the world stage better than previous leaders, as you might say. Reagan, obviously, during the time of the Cold War, Bush during the time of the Iraq War, obviously played a much bigger role than he is playing right now. But I think from a standpoint of him being the most involved through a foreign conflict view and through an economical view, he is very involved in the world main stage, which is what we've seen from previous conservatives.
But just as an example, though, so the reason why, in my opinion, this is antithetical to neoconservatism, though. So this is where I was willing to break bread and just say maybe he's a little bit more interventionist than my criticisms allow for. However, a neoconservative, somebody who believes that republicanism and democracy should spread throughout the world through free trade, cultural influence, American soft power, and American hard power, no neoconservative would have cut PEPFAR. No neoconservative would have cut USAID. No neoconservative would have reduced the CIA's role on the main stage. No neoconservative would have started a trade war with allies. That would have never fucking happened. So that's where, for me, like, I kind of feel like, Gibbs is laughing. You kind of have to decide whether or not neoconservative is a slur. If neoconservative is a slur in an insult, then I don't know why you would just say Trump isn't a neoconservative and that's a good thing. That would be the end of this segment.
And okay, Admiral Gibbs talked about before saying that he doesn't think that MAGA is neoconservative, for one. And for two, what was Trump's foreign policy talking point when he was campaigning? It was no new wars. Would you consider that neoconservative?
Sure. Well, hold on. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that no, that is not neoconservative. However, once again, by the way, I just want to point out, this is to the moderator as well. We've had total bad faith by the part of these two, especially North just now. And I want to point this out. He asked me, he said it's not his job to provide a source after I made a claim, even though I made the source, told the source in the claim I made. Now, I posted a source for both the other claims I've made, and let me just list some other stuff from the bill that the Dems are. These all sound crazy. This is what they were sitting here pushing out. The lawmaker listed out nearly $20 million in foreign aid funding that he alleged Democrats have had their eyes on, including $4.2 million for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex people in Western Balkans and Uganda, $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance focus groups for male prostitutes in Haiti, $6 million for media organizations for the Palestinians, and $3 million for circumcisions and vasectomies in Zambia. Now, you could argue maybe under the soft power principle that, hey, it could be neoconservative. However, even a neoconservative who wants to cut government spending would absolutely cut funding like things for $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes in Haiti. Secondly, the other thing I said, which was the ACLU thing, I posted the fucking link in there. This is from CNN. If he doesn't like the one about I just posted from Fox News, because CNN is notorious for being extremely far right, they are the ones who admitted that Kamala lied during her presidential election campaign and said she didn't say this after Trump claimed she did do this on the national debate stage. And guess what? I had the source, and she did fucking say that. And here's a cool quote from Kamala. This is our comparison. If I have to pick which side's more conservative, Trump or, hey, the populist righty, who's maybe not a neocon, but he's a populist righty, or left socialist leader who says Harris, this is an exact quote from Harris, executive authority to ensure transgender and non-binary people rely on the state for medical care, including those in prison and immigration detention, will have access to comprehensive treatment associated with gender transition, including all necessary surgical care. Now, I'm not bashing anybody that wants to be trans. I'm not bashing anybody that wants to be any of these things. I don't care. If you want to do that, more power to you. I don't care. However, if you're telling me that it is conservative to fucking go and pay for illegal immigrants to get those surgeries, then you're out of your goddamn mind.
Well, Admiral Gibbs, you're reading from the Fox News article, right?
No, I'm reading from the CNN article now. Thanks, but good try being a duplicitous liar again.
Well, I was just curious. Look, the problem with these articles is they can claim whatever the fuck they want.
No, they're not claiming. They're quoting. They quoted Kamala.
Gibbs, let North respond.
They can claim whatever the fuck they want.
Quote.
As long as I'd like to see the actual bill themselves instead of someone saying that's what's in the bill, like fucking dance classes in Palestine. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about there.
Well, okay, so it's not my fault that you don't know this. I provide sources, and you provided jack shit. Maybe it's your first debate. Maybe this is your first debate. But hold on, maybe it's your first debate. But a primary source. But hold on, a primary source. A primary source is Kamala Harris saying this herself. That's a primary source. I quoted her saying that herself.
What you claim
yes.
that CNN is a source is
Kamala,
like a high schooler using a news article for their her
direct words. They quoted her direct words. Are you retarded, bro? That is a primary source. Or is the person
talking about?
Is the Kamala saying XYZ and them quoting that? Is that a primary source? Yes or no?
It's a secondary source.
No, it is a first source. Oh my God, it's a prophet. And you are goddamn.
Link me, Kamala.
They're both in the chat. They're both in the chat. They're both in the chat.
You put it in the private chat.
I mean, maybe read a book or watch some news because you're sitting here showing it's your first time debating with the big boys. It's crazy that you're going to call out me for sources when I provided two, and you purported bubkiss.
Let's see here now.
Okay. So what do you guys want to do in reference to neocon? Because I think, Luke, my argument would be that Trump is substantively less committed to neoconservatism than a neoconservative. I think Gibbs, despite going on a rant, would probably agree. He would just say that that's a good thing. Because neoconservatives love war.
I couldn't hear anything.
They love foreign intervention. They love spending money internationally. They love trans drag shows. They fucking like Colombians streetwalking trans prostitutes putting on an art show for the Colombian embassy. Neoconservatives fucking love that shit. So I'm assuming that Admiral Gibbs would say, that's cringe, that's fucked up, we shouldn't do that.
I would agree that spending money would be on foreign wars and expanding American influence through war would be a neocon position. Sure. Yeah. However, I would argue that yes,
and
they
that's
would
bad,
not.
Right?
No. I would argue that if we're going to argue from a neocon standpoint, because I would say I used to be one, I would argue that the neocon standpoint would be doing effective things when it comes to expanding American influence. Like, direct action against military targets. That would be an effective use of American power that's going to increase our influence in the world. Holding territory, ensuring free shipping, safe shipping lanes overseas. Yeah, that would be a neocon stance. However, a neocon would not be in favor of ineffective things like 3.6 million going to Haiti or for something like this.
Okay. I mean, I think descriptively, even if we disagree on like whether or not these things are good or bad, I could just accept that. But then this would get into, I would say, well, let's do like let's do the spicy, non-spicy, and then spicy. So social conservatism. Okay. I think that social conservatism is promoting, religious values, virtues, family, getting married, having kids, being loyal to your wife. I think Trump is one of the least. So he espouses social conservatism. He got conservative justices elected to the Supreme Court. I think that he is the least socially conservative individual who has ever represented the Republican Party, probably in the history of the country.
What?
I think that Donald Trump is the least socially conservative human being who has represented the Republican Party in the history of the country.
Worse than John McCain?
Yes, substantively. John McCain was married for 40 years. Donald Trump cheated on every single one of his spouses. Donald Trump is credibly accused of having sex with 14 to 17-year-old girls to the 80s and 90s and being friends with one of the world's most prolific pedophiles in American history. So yeah, John McCain was substantively more social conservative than Donald Trump.
Who founded the Republican Party? I forget. Was it Abraham Lincoln? Oh, it was Abraham Lincoln. Like, this guy took the progressive stance of freeing the slaves. I gotta say, and that's a good thing, but if you're gonna argue that, hey, he's the most non-social conservative in American history, maybe once again open up a history book. Like,
Do you think slavery is socially conservative?
I would argue that at the time, yeah, if it's established within, hey, it's economic conservative, that's for goddamn sure. If you're going to sit here and say, oh, with tradition, hey, yeah, that's also going to be a conservative standpoint at the time. Like, are you arguing that it's not?
This is why I define terms before I talk about them. I say that
yeah, you can define them all you want, but you're defining them dishonestly.
Okay, okay, tell me if this definition is dishonest. Social conservatism is reinforcing religious principles and values, and also reinforcing the virtue and value of family, marriage, and staying loyal to your partner while raising children. That's social conservatism. Was that a dishonest social conservative definition?
Yeah, sure. Let's use that definition. Let's just for funsies. I'll play your game. Here's the problem with that. If we use that definition, hold on. If we use that definition and we compare the two candidates, and then we compare down ballot, which one represents that more? Maybe the leader might not represent that. Hey, but Vance is absolutely a socially conservative. However, when I sit here and see policies like that were going on the left, none of that is advocating for social conservative. And your argument is a never Trumper. So you're going to argue against anybody MAGA. And then you're going to say, hey, let's vote for Dems that are going to push more far left socialist policies and more far left progressive anti-conservative policies. And then you're going to sit here and tell me that,
I'll follow you,
that's MAGA. Go ahead.
I'll follow you. Yeah. So quick response, Luke. I promise I'll be brief. Yes. So if my options were Kamala Harris, who I don't like as a person, who I think has not led a socially conservative life. She cheated on her current spouse or her boyfriend or whatever in order to fillet a person in power in order to get a better job. She married into a family. She does not have children of her own. I do not view her as a socially conservative person. However, if I stack Kamala Harris up against Donald Trump, who cheated on every single one of his spouses, including Melania, and who also had sex with underage sex traffic women, then I'm going to say that Kamala Harris is a
she was fucking Willie Burton and Montel Williams. What are you talking about? If you're going to talk about social conservative, you can't talk about someone who's a known cheating slut. This is crazy, bro.
You say known cheating
slut. Wouldn't you agree, Gibbs? Do you think being a pedophile is worse, or do you think being a slut is worse?
I don't know. Why don't we ask your bestie for Destiny? But hey, that's neither here nor there.
Go ask him. I'm pretty sure he'll say being a pedophile is worse than being a slut. I'm asking
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of allegations going on, and you're covering it for him.
Answer the question. He's not going to answer the question.
No, I'm not answering. I want to let Luke answer.
I would love an answer. I would love an answer, Gibbs. What's worse, having sex with a 14-year-old sex trafficked girl or being a cheating slut?
Well, anything that they're convicted for, that's going to be what's worse, because we know that's true.
I would like you to answer the question.
And the answer is anything they're going to be convicted for, that's going to be what's worse. And I've not heard Donald Trump get convicted of anything with 14 years. If he was actually doing this, why in the last 4 years when the Dems had the Epstein files, did they do nothing at all with them? We can bitch about the Epstein files all we want getting released, but guess what? They released more of that information in the last 6 months than we've been released in the last 4 years. If the Dems actually had the claims you're making, they would have released them. All you got is baby back bullshit. Go ahead, Luke.
Gibbs, I would like an answer to my question from a descriptive standpoint. Is being a cheating slut worse than having sex with a sex-trafficked 14-year-old girl? Yes or no?
In a pure hypothetical, it would be. However, in a real world scenario where we have evidence of one and we don't have evidence of the other. So, Fugazi.
We have firsthand testimony from one of the sex trafficked girls. We also have a 2003 letter from the Jeffrey Epstein estate where Donald Trump writes the most prolific pedophile in American history.
Wow.
A love
also
letter
one of the giant biggest financiers.
Have a secret.
Wow, they both have a secret. Wait. That's not definitive proof of anything. Hold on, Connor, you and I have a secret.
What's that?
That you're gay. I mean, look, see how easy it is? I can just make up anything when I say we have a secret. Nobody knows that means nothing. That means nothing. That means nothing. You have no evidence of this claim.
You, the real conservative, are saying that actually It's conservative to sweep for the president of the United States having sex with 14-year-old girls.
No,
That's
nobody's
conservatism
sweeping.
now.
Nobody's sweeping. I'm
You're
arguing that
sweeping.
there's nobody's
presenting you
sweeping.
evidence.
Oh my
I'm
God.
presenting you evidence that Donald
No, you're
Trump
not.
had sex with underage girls in the 80s, 90s, and thousands, and you are denying it.
You
That
are
is
presenting
sweeping.
no evidence that's been put in front of the court of law that's
There
convicted
is
of
Okay,
anything.
Gibbs, do you think a
And
court of
that's-
law?
Hold on, hold on. Everyone-
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Everyone shut the
Whoa.
fuck up.
Hold on, I
Hold
don't
on.
get that.
Everyone shut up.
Gibbs.
I will mute everyone. Shut the fuck up. First and foremost, we're going to kick it over to Luke here in a second. Second of all, everyone in chat, make sure to like and sub, please. And then third of all, Connor, you're
On my
gay.
channel.
When I came onto you, you told me that you weren't into dudes. Dude, what the fuck?
Hey, try again. Try again now.
Corbin, you're a very handsome man. I'm just actually not into dudes.
That's what I hear.
All right, Luke.
See how easy to lie about this kind of stuff? Crazy.
Ha 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 ha! You're sweeping for a pedophile.
I
Awesome.
mean, but so are you. So I guess
Okay,
I guess
we're not
even.
getting anywhere with the pedo
No, I'm
versus
not.
teenage. Okay,
Before
everyone
Luke goes,
stop.
can I ask
Luke.
Admiral Gibbs something?
Sure.
No, we're going to kick it to North.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay. Admiral Gibbs, you say that in order for someone to be considered a pedophile, they have to be convicted in a court of law, right?
Yeah, I'm a conservative. I believe in innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
So why did you call Destiny a pedophile?
I didn't. I'm saying by the same metric that
No,
Connor.
you implied he was a pedophile.
No. Yeah, exactly. And I apply this. I'm actually willing to sit here right now and tell you to your face that I will grant Destiny that he's not one until he's convicted in the court of law, because I, as a conservative, I believe in conservative values like innocent until proven guilty. Trump's case, with the one that Connor's referencing, got thrown out for lack of that.
How do you feel about drone striking drone boats in the
Hold on.
Got thrown
before
out.
we
And
pivot
so when you're
again,
asking me
just
this
gonna let Gibb
question, North,
respond.
when you're asking me this question, North, I'm willing to
then
sit here and
we'll go.
grant Destiny grace because he's not been convicted in the court of law. And I think we should all wait until he's convicted in the court of law before making accusations. However, if we're going to be this dishonest thing that, hold on. If we're going to do this, hold on, North. Let me just finish my thought here. The reason why I'm doing that is because what Connor's doing is dishonest. The case he's referencing got thrown out. This letter that he's saying it's a secret. We have a big secret. I just made up something to claim we have a secret. See how easy that was? It could mean anything. The secret. You and I could have a secret. We both like manga. Who knows? Hold on.
North and Gibbs, we're kicking it to Luke now.
Sure, go ahead. My point is
I'm gonna mute.
proven guilty is a conservative value.
All right, Luke.
Yeah, so obviously to counter, we could obviously talk all day about Trump's social conservative lifestyle or life. But I would like to ask you a question from a conservative policy standpoint. You would rather vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump?
No. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I would actually argue from a social conservative standpoint is that the repeal of Roe versus Wade was probably one of the biggest social conservative victories of the past half century. So I would actually argue that was one of the biggest social conservative wins. What I don't like about the repeal of Roe versus Wade is that since there was no legislation that was put in place afterwards, all the red states got infinitely more conservative on abortion, but the blue states got infinitely more blue. And so as a result, they kind of legalized infanticide, where you can have an elective abortion up to 9 months. And that's actually more morally repugnant than Roe versus Wade. Now, when it comes, the reason why I bring up Trump rather than social conservative is because I can agree that Christians and Christian nationalists and Christian theocrats probably feel pretty well represented in the Trump administration. That's true. But I think they're selling their souls to the devil, because I think Donald Trump is one of the least Christian, most vile, least socially conservative people that we've had in the history of the country. So yeah, you got more socially conservative policies. That's probably true. Christian nationalists, Christian theocrats, they probably feel super comfortable. Donald Trump himself is a credibly accused pedophile.
Well, hold on. Once again, I just posted a link arguing that that's basically the lies. The case got tossed out in 2016, and then he basically just admitted right here. Sorry, Luke, I didn't mean to cut you off again. He just admitted that, Trump has put these Christian fundamentalists, or whatever he wanted to call them, in office, and they are pushing socially conservative policies. So like I said in my opening, he is actually advocating voting down ballot against Christian conservative policies. So he is.
Yeah, because I don't like.
Sorry,
I don't
ahead.
like pedophile rapists, Gibbs, and I also don't like selling your soul in
alleged,
order to achieve
alleged, not
policy
convicted.
ends, Gibbs.
Alleged.
All right,
I mean, you don't have a problem with other alleged ones, but you have a problem with one.
Luke,
Okay,
What do
so
you-
hold on.
hold on,
Gibbs.
hold on.
This is
God.
actually something that I'm going to force you to contend with.
Okay.
In the 2003 letter, with a secret that they both share, the outline behind the secret love letter from the 2003 birthday book is a woman with small breasts. In that same birthday book, there is a drawing of another fan of Jeffrey Epstein handing balloons to 10-year-old and 8-year-old girls who are then in the next frame seen massaging him 10 years later. Okay, so it is known, not only that, but Donald Trump, his primary accuser, I could look up her name, but his primary accuser said that girls in flyover states were flown in for beauty pageants and modeling agencies from age 13 to 17. They were brought to Jeffrey Epstein's penthouse where tons of rich and powerful people were partying. Donald Trump was there, and they had sex when she was of the age of 14. That's not socially conservative, friend. There's nothing socially conservative about banging sex trafficked 14-year-old girls. There's nothing about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, it's alleged, not convicted, innocent until proven guilty. You just gave away the game.
So you're ignoring the evidence in front of your eyes.
Hold on, in front of my eye. Well, I'm not the judge. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a defense attorney. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not a jury. They didn't convict him. None of this stuff really matters because it's not convicted. Hold on. Well, sure, you could argue that. I mean, once again, by your own metric, you're sweeping for the same person with the same kind of
No, I
allegation.
don't.
But I'm willing. Hold on. I'm willing to just throw both those arguments out the window for the sake of civility. However, we can stick to them if we want. I would like to turn it back over to Luke, though. I just want to point out that you did admit that down ballot Trump has put social conservatives in that pushed the agenda and pushed policy, and your biggest complaint is he's personally a piece of shit, and yet he's still going to push conservative policy regardless of that. So thanks for admitting, once again, not a conservative. Sorry, Luke.
Here's another thing.
Okay, Connor, before you go, I've been trying to kick it. Connor, before you go, I've been trying to kick it to Luke for like the last 5 minutes. I'm going to let him have the floor.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, as I said earlier, we could talk about his, social conservative life. Maybe he didn't really live like the perfect Christian life. He was obviously, there's obviously a lot of things that has been funneled into the air, but one of the main things that I view when I look at him is his policies, right? Obviously I can't vote for the guy, not old enough to vote yet, so I'm not going to be able to really have a say on that. But what I do want to argue for is some of his conservative policies. I think he still upholds, conservative policies that, have mirrored Reagan, and, have mirrored like the most historical figures in the Republican Party, and he's tried his best to follow that path.
Okay, Luke, explain to me in what way he's mirrored that. I don't see that at all. Explain it. Explain the examples of how Trump has mirrored, like Reaganism.
Oh yeah, well, deregulation, right, and peace through strength could just be two examples that I'll throw out.
Okay. When you refer to deregulation, what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, he's giving tax cuts to companies that do that have made in America.
Is that deregulation?
In a sense, yes.
Why is that? Why is tax cuts deregulation?
Because it can help made in America companies thrive.
If I were to ask you to define regulation and deregulation, what would you answer that?
Rolling back federal regulations on businesses.
Okay, so that's okay. When I ask you what deregulation is, you say, "Well, this is rolling back regulation." That's the circular.
Well, what do you think regulation, deregulation are?
Well, I'm asking Luke.
You clearly have an issue with it.
He's saying that Trump is deregulating,
Well, yeah, would rolling regulation back on businesses be deregulated? Yes or no?
But he's claiming that deregulation is giving a tax cut. I don't think that's
Well,
a
That
in a
absolutely is.
sense,
That
I
absolutely
mean-
is.
Well, in a sense, I would mean limiting the government control on businesses.
Okay, so we talked about before that Trump is increasing government control on businesses through subsidies and through taking direct control of like major corporation stocks, right?
Are we a mixed economy or not?
So is that not contrary to like what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, was he investing or buying stock in that? Well, you see,
Well,
like,
we
buying
live in
stock-
libertarian?
The government has bought 10% stock in like Intel, and they control 10% stock in Intel.
Where's Fabian Liberty? I didn't know you were Fabian Liberty. This is crazy, bro. You're sitting here arguing for libertaria, and then you're trying to like nail down. You asked him, "What's regulation, deregulation?" And his answer was exactly what deregulation is: rolling back
I'm saying that
regulation on
Trump is
businesses.
not
Like, that's
living up to
crazy.
the claims of being like deregulatory.
This is so bad. Faith.
Okay. Do you think the FCC censoring Jimmy Kimmel? Do you think that that's deregulatory?
Sure, I'm going to add censoring the FCC. Well, since did they actually
No,
put
not
down
censoring the FCC.
yeah,
as
the
a tool
FCC.
to censor,
Did they actually do something, or did they threaten to do something?
Okay, so if the
Yes or no? What's the
threatens-
answer? there?
Okay. So if you threaten to do something, is that not like a bad thing?
Well, I would like.
So if I like say, okay, you can't do
Under
this
the
unless
color
or
of
I'll
law.
kill you, right? That's not like, well, he just threatened to kill you. It doesn't mean that he actually
would
killed
you
Like,
agree,
that
North? Well,
doesn't
let's just do your
discredit
let's do
that.
your thought exercise real quick. All right, would you agree that following the example of maybe the man in the Bible that God called a man after his own heart, King David, would you say that exemplifies Christian behaviors?
What?
Well, King
Hold on.
David is.
Well, yeah, he's a
under
Jew.
the
He's Old Testament, but he
so
he does exemplify some Christian beliefs,
like,
right?
So as Christians, we try to emulate Christ.
Right.
So
Yes. However,
I
we
don't
also
think-
study.
We don't try to
He's a
emulate
Jew
King
that
David.
pre-existed
No, well-
Christ.
That's like you're talking about Judaism.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is when the Christian God, Yahweh, what part of the Trinity, which has a covenant in the Old Testament that is broken and renewed under Jesus with the new
Yes,
covenant.
the
Okay,
new
cool.
covenant,
So, okay,
yeah,
when
so we don't
Yahweh,
follow
hold
the
on,
new
hold on.
covenant,
Right,
we
you're
don't
right.
follow
You're right.
King
Hold on,
David,
that's not
right?
true. Well, hold on. A lot of the new covenant does follow the old covenant. There's some differences, like Jesus rose for his sins, as opposed to us having to pay like lamb tax, basically, right, or sacrifice. Hold on, but here's my argument: when God, you agree that God, the God of the Old Testament. Hold on. I'm talking about Passover. I'm talking about Passover. I'm talking about sacrifices, blood sacrifice. Hold on, well, let me finish here. Hold on, let me finish. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish. It's real simple. When I sit here and I argue Yahweh, a part of the Trinity, who says in the Old Testament David is a man after God's own heart, and Connor complains about how Trump doesn't exemplify Christian or Christian values or any of these things, and David had the husband of Bathsheba killed and then married her. This is a man that ended up repenting. This story teaches us that any man, even someone who does something as evil as killing somebody's husband and then marrying his wife, can be used as a tool for God's good and God's grace and leading the nation. And this is an example here. So Connor doesn't even believe in Christianity.
14-year-olds because in the end,
You're
Trump is doing God's
misinterpreting-
work.
Now,
Amazing.
I got 2 doctorates in religion. How many do you have?
No. Admiral Gibbs, you're misinterpreting the point of that story. The point of that story isn't that, oh, well, David did a bad thing, and it ultimately was a good thing because it helped David like learn.
I can use other examples.
That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is David did a bad thing, and God punished him for years. That's like
How about I can use other example. How about Paul?
Because he did a
How about
bad thing.
Paul? You know the Apostle Paul? Let's use New Testament because I let you walk right into this one. Paul was under the name Saul, was sitting here killing Christians. He was stoning them to death, and then God came and showed Himself. Hold on, and God came and showed him the way. And God came and showed him the way. Hold on, God came and showed him the way. Hold on, God came and showed him the way. I let you speak. God came and showed him the way, and He used Saul, who became Paul, as a tool. And part of what that message. Hold on, part of what that message. message is as that part of what that message is, and this is clear. It's clear that I'm more theologically knowledgeable than you are. Part of what that message is that God can use any man. God can use any. I'm not justifying any pedophilia. God can use any person. God can use any person, whether you agree with what they've done, whether what they're allegedly, what they have. Well, I mean, they can use any person and sit here and spread the word of God and become a tool of God. And when Connor admits that they're sitting here putting social conservatives in office, and he just doesn't like Trump for XYZ reason, which one of them is being
child rapists, Gibbs.
Well, you were complaining about this before this was even a thing. I don't associate with either of them. However, if I'm going to have to vote between Kamala and Trump,
I told you two clear pieces
and what did I tell you? What did I tell you?
I
said, as a conservative, I believe in the Constitution, and one of the things that we talk about is innocent until proven guilty under the judiciary system. Do you not agree with innocent until proven guilty?
I'm going to test that. Let me know when you're done. Okay, so hold on. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have drone struck 3 separate boats in the Caribbean. There was no trial. There was no due process. We don't even know who these people are. They've probably killed 20 or so people. So you said that you believe in innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, which is why, despite the fact that I presented you with 2 pieces of evidence that indicate that Donald Trump is a child rapist, you're willing to ignore those things. So how do you feel about drone striking random ships in the Caribbean without due process?
Well, I'll answer that. It's real simple, because if Connor knew anything about anything, he would know that when I'm talking about innocent until proven guilty, I'm talking about under the American justice system for American citizens. I don't give a fuck about a terrorist organization cartel. When it's a terrorist organization cartel, I'm sorry, it's based as fuck. He's taking out drug dealers in the middle of the ocean.
Pedophilia, drone strike a few civilians. Who cares?
I mean, civilians. You mean drug dealers? You know that there's actually reports now from other coast guards of other navies that have actually recovered drugs from the struck boats, right? So, do you want to rescind that dumbass statement, or do you just want to double down on idiocracy?
Wait, sorry, what did you say?
There are reports now from nearby nations that one of them, at least that we have evidence of so far, was able to recover drugs from some of the struck boats.
Gibbs,
that pretty much definitely proves that they were selling drugs. Would you agree? You recovered drugs from a boat that got sunk.
We're for due process.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're for American. Wait, are they American citizens or not?
Admiral Gibbs, do you understand why a president is able to drone strike a random family in the Middle East? Do you understand what authority the president is?
Are they American citizens or
not? In order to do that.
Hold on. Are they American citizens or not?
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I know that's not what you're asking, but I think it's a two-part question.
Do you understand what authority the president is deriving from in order to do drone strikes in the Middle East?
Yeah, they're the commander-in-chief of the military.
That's not the authority.
That is the authority. Are you the yes?
No, it's an authorization of use of military force from Congress.
When's the last time we had a declared war? When's the last time we had a declared war?
After 9/11, there was legislation passed saying that the president, as dictated by Congress, is able to basically take out anyone associated with the attacks of 9/11, right? And we've stretched that, I'd say, too far to today, where that's the same authority that we're using to bomb Yemeni's pirates, right?
Sure.
The president doesn't have that authority by himself. He has to derive that authority from Congress. So where is he getting that authority to drone strike Caribbean Venezuelan ships?
Okay. All right. Real simple. Are the Yemeni pirates and the Houthis, and are these people generally considered terrorists?
It's not whether they're terrorists or not.
Yes or not? Are they classified? Hold on. Are they classified? Are they classified as terrorists? Yes or no?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So, did you have a problem when any of the other presidents used the terrorist clause? I guess if you did, sure. However, all these other presidents in recent history since 9/11 have used this basic powers under the, the Bush-Class Patriot Act, all these other good things Bush pushed through under the Cheney administration. Basically when he did this, they classified these things and they derived that power from Congress. And that is partially why we've sat here and we've seen, whenever we have cartels dealing with foreign powers like China, much in the same way Hezbollah does with Iran. We can see other places like Venezuelan-backed Tren de Agua. We see these things when they're acting in the same manner. It is reasonable then, when they declare them terrorists and terrorist organizations, for him to act as the commander-in-chief, deriving his power from those bills that were passed after 9/11, to enact a will upon those ships, and that will happen to be sinking their asses.
Okay, do you think that the president should be able to act without the authority of Congress to like sink ships?
Yes, possibly.
Yes. Okay. Well, then you're.
Oh, you're not a
think that
constitutional
you
conservative.
think
Well, hold
that-
on. Hold
that
on.
at
You agree with
all
this too?
in
You agree with
line-
this too?
Okay, hold on. You think that is at all in line with like limited government?
Hold on. You agree with what I just said too? If
And separation of powers.
If I take
and all that?
if I take a boat and I drive it full of explosives at a U.S. Aircraft carrier, would they have a reason to shoot me out of the water even if they didn't know what I was doing?
Yeah, they would. They
Oh, so then would they do that without the president's express
You're giving
permission?
me literally an entirely different circumstance.
No. It's the
You
same
are.
Yes, I would
circumstance.
agree that they would be able to shoot it out. But that's
Oh, even if I was a U.S.
Blowing up
citizen.
civilian vessels in the Caribbean.
But
That's
we
what
know
we're talking
we
about.
know they aren't civilian vessels. We know they're terrorist
These people
vessels.
are driving boats towards U.S. carrier task forces.
No,
That's
they're
not what's
driving
happening
boats
right
full
now.
of drugs to America.
How do you know they have drugs in them?
Okay, if I have to pull up another source and you can't pull up a single one
I
again,
mean, the source of them having drugs in it is after the fact. They didn't know they had drugs in it before when they blew
are they American citizens? Yes or no?
That doesn't matter.
So then they're not entitled to the same fucking rights under the Constitution as American citizens. Trump already declared the organization
you're actually-
a
hold on,
terrorist
Gibbs.
org.
That's
You're actually
completely
so hold on.
misunderstanding what I'm
You're-
saying.
No, North. I just want to make this clear. So the Constitution actually does specifically articulate citizens and people when it's
and
referring
people.
to citizens and people, and therefore people are entitled to due process
people.
under the United States
People.
law.
Mhm.
And so, as an example, you're just showing us that you don't actually believe in the Constitution of the United
And-
States, which is fine. That's fine.
This is insanity, bro. Like when you
Either that or you don't understand it. You
Oh,
either
I
don't
understand it.
or you
Clearly,
don't believe
you
it.
don't understand it because y'all are just sitting here. I gave a scenario.
No.
which
You
You just
just
laid
said
out.
that people who are not citizens are not entitled to due process. So you don't
Terrorist
understand.
if you were to declare a terrorist organization under U.S. law, you are not entitled. If you're a foreign power, a foreign combatant of war, you have things that you are entitled to. You are not entitled to every right of due process. And if you're a terrorist organization, you're an enemy combatant, and therefore you're not beholden under the people thing that you're just talking about to having any kind of due process. I hate to break it to you. This is, once again, we have a UPS driver fucking trying to explain legal theory. Good stuff. Try again.
Gibbs, but this is where you're unironically so stupid you weren't able to track the conversation.
Oh, I tracked it.
What North was saying was that in the war on terror, we had the authorization for use of military force in the Middle East and North Africa, and we also did additional AUMFs from Congress that authorized Obama, Bush, Trump during ISIS, in order to authorize them to do drone strikes against jihadists in the Middle East and North Africa.
Was Bush a neocon?
In the Caribbean, I'm almost done, thank you. In the Caribbean, we don't have an equivalent thing. What happened was the executive branch unilaterally invoked the Aliens and Seditions Act in order to label Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization, and then they started drone striking civilian vessels in the Caribbean, which is a clear departure from anything that happened during the war on terror. The fact that that's not alarming to you it should be alarming to me, but it's no longer because I've had like 3 or 4 conversations with you. So
let me ask you this.
you know,
quick.
I expect this out
Well,
of
hold
you,
on. Once
unfortunately.
again, let's just remember we're talking about conservatism. All right, guys. Once again, let's just use Connor's own metric. Right? He argued that Trump's not a neocon, and then arguably the peak of the neocon movement is under Bush Cheney, right? Depending on which form thought of neoconservatism that you like, right? The arguable peak is under Bush Cheney, and guess what? They're the ones who absolutely would agree with Trump over here bombing terrorist organizations or using the Patriot Act to do stuff. That's the authority he's deriving from. So by your own metric, he's being a neoconservative again, and you're advocating for policies that are not conservative. But good. Thank you for agreeing. Once again, Trump is upholding the conservative position.
Okay, you can be a
Communicating with you
neoconservative
is like
within
communicating with
powers
North.
granted by Congress.
Okay, communicating with you is like communicating with an orangutan because neoconservatives, they want to spread specific values across the world. They don't want to spread
Or one of those selling
McDonald's.
drugs?
They don't want to spread having sex with kids. What they want to spread is republicanism and liberal democracy and free markets. So when you have somebody invoke war powers during a time of peace in order to unilaterally slaughter civilians, that's actually, weirdly enough, something that like neoconservatives would not advocate for. Weirdly enough, it goes beyond what neoconservatives advocate for. So the fact that you don't understand these words,
how
again,
many civilians died in Iraq?
Gibbs, let Connor finish.
Well, I mean, all I had was an insult. It's like trying to talk to a different
Oh, okay.
species. It's really
Well,
frustrating.
once
mind.
again,
Keep
once
going.
again, if we're going to talk about peak neoconservatism, arguably it's under Bush and Cheney, and I don't know, 1 million plus Iraqis died, so you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No, I do, because I actually like read the history of the Iraq War, and it wasn't
Oh,
a
you
million.
read
It's
history.
around 200,000. But you know,
wow,
like I said, you're not the same species as me,
Sure.
so I'm not surprised we're having communication difficulties.
Okay,
Damn.
yeah. One of us is intelligent, the other one's a dumbass. That's the different species, and I'm the intelligent one, clearly. Based on the fact.
I'm happy you needed to clarify that at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, I did, because, you know, the way you're seeing here, bitten there, going and being duplicitous and perfidious the entire time. Once again, I want to point out, once again, I'm the only one who's provided sources for any of my claims, and this guy's over here talking about neoconservatism. Then when I point out he's actually being a neoconservative, then he points out, oh, hey, guess what? This guy's not spreading these things. Oh, but Trump puts people in that are socially conservative. Every point that I made in my opening, economic conservatism, social conservatism, foreign policy, we can look at neoconservatism. He has admitted that Trump is implementing these things, so he was the most conservative candidate going forward comparatively to socialist Kamala Harris.
Admiral
No,
Gibbs,
you don't,
I have
you
a
don't
question. I have
summarize
a
your
question.
own points that well, let alone my points. So I'm
Hold on.
unsurprised.
I got a major question for Admiral Gibbs. Do you believe in states' rights?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think that Trump promotes states' rights?
I believe that Trump believes in the federalism principle, right, where the national government is higher than the states' rights, and states have some rights. However, the federal government is
What
able
rights
to
do the
trump
states
them.
have?
You know, those not listed specifically to the U.S. federal government I think is something along the lines of the exact quote.
That's the only states' rights that there are?
I mean, listen, if you want me to sit here and try to list like thousands and thousands
Well,
of
I'm
different
just-
things, like, is that what
do
you're trying to argue? Like
do
this
you
is a,
think
like,
that Trump
can you
violates-
define? Can you provide a source for a
Do you
difference?
think that Trump violates states' rights when he's deploying the National Guard to places like Texas, or not Texas,
Like the Posse
California?
Comitatus Act of 1878.
Do you think he is violating states' rights by deploying the National Guard to places like California without the permission of their governors?
Or Illinois.
Or Illinois? That's also true.
Okay, are federal troops being attacked in those cities? Not federal troops, federal agents being attacked in those cities? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so under what we're talking about, if Trump sends troops to defend federal buildings and support federal law enforcement in a logistical manner, and defend themselves if they are attacked as well, then no, he is not violating states' rights, because he's simply defending federal buildings, which you would agree, defending federal buildings is something under the purview of the federal government. And then when he's supporting federal law enforcement with logistical help, I don't see him sending Marines or Navy SEALs kicking in doors. I see them assisting with some of the ICE agents and stuff, but they're not doing any of that. So no, I would say he's not violating states' rights. Would you disagree with that assessment?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I would-
then you're just
Well,
wrong.
I would say that he would be violating states' rights.
So that there's realistically like 3 more that I would want to get through. And so the boring one that I think we can do really quickly is
actually, Connor, before you know go on your thing, I wanted to ask Luke. Luke, did you want to kind of intervene on any of these state rights topics that we're hitting on at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say that, I mean, there are some, a lot of state right things that Trump has supported. For one, he decided to leave abortion up to the states, which is one of the biggest ideas, despite what you want to say about it, you know, on conservative viewpoints on it. That's a very conservative belief of leaving a lot of things up to the states.
I mean,
Okay.
I would agree with that, but Trump didn't decide that. I guess it's a Supreme Court appointee, but I guess it's who you want to give credit for that.
and then
You
while
can
listen,
both if you'd like.
But hold on, because I'm not like abhuman, I can like understand multiple concepts. So I think that states that are conservative have passed incredibly conservative abortion laws. But I think with the repeal of Roe versus Wade in reaction to incredibly conservative abortion laws, I think it's Colorado, California, and I think even like Wisconsin or something. It was something crazy. They've passed effectively elective abortion laws up through like past viability. They've effectively said that you can get an abortion all the way up to the 9th month. Now, the argument from pro-abortion advocates is that like, well, this is such a statistically small amount of abortion. Who gives a shit? But in my opinion, that effectively legalized infanticide.
Well, the real thing about that is, well, that is terrible. My views of abortion are very similar to Charlie Kirk's beliefs. But what I would say is, like, can you right now? Shit, my bad. Can you right now pass any legislative federal stances on abortion?
Probably not. There's not going to be sufficient agreement to do it.
So the only real take you can have on that is appeal Roe versus Wade, and then leave it up to the states.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you take a pragmatic approach, that's probably what most social conservatives believe.
Luke, do you believe that the president should be able to dictate what the Supreme Court does?
No.
No? Okay.
No. They can have influence.
They can have influence, but they can't dictate. Okay, so do you think that Trump was dictating that the Supreme Court repeal Roe v. Wade?
No, I believe he had influence on it.
Do you think that president should have influence on the Supreme Court?
I believe that they're allowed to express their opinion.
But do you think an opinion directly implies influence?
I would not say so. No, I would not say it's a direct influence on it, because obviously we've seen the Supreme Court.
Yeah, North. I don't know what you're poking at. What are you poking at?
Well, I was just wondering, because if you're implying that the Supreme Court is just going to do whatever Trump wants, then I think that would be a violation of the separation of powers, which is an anti-conservative.
No, but I just to kind of cut ahead, because aren't we? I don't know how long we're running this, Corbin. Are we running for 2 hours, basically?
Yeah, the ideal is about 2 hours. I have about 2.
Yeah, so I kind of want to cut ahead. My point would be that like Trump saying, "Oh, there's this case making its way up the lower courts, and it's going to make it to the Supreme Court about Roe v. Wade, and I hope the Supreme Court does something about that." I don't know if there would be any like legal or ethical prohibitions against him offering an opinion like that.
Well, he can offer opinion, but as Luke said before, that opinion isn't like direct influence.
Yeah, so. Sure. The just so we can get it all in, because we only got like 40 minutes left. In environmental conservatism, just real quick, even if you guys don't want to deal with it, that's fine. Environmental conservatism, the Department of the Bureau of Land Management, the head of the Bureau of Land Management, appointed by Trump in conjunction with a Republican, tried to sell tens of millions of acres of federal public land. You can make whatever pro-capitalist arguments you want. You can make whatever pro-timber, pro-ranching, pro-whatever arguments. The point is that that's not environmental conservatism. Any disagreement on that?
Okay. Would you argue that letting
Gibbs, while you go do your thing, I'm gonna go grab a charger real quick.
Yeah, when you tell me, okay, would you argue that putting oil wells in Alaska on federal land or national reserves, would that be economic conservatism, or would that just be conservatism in general? Would you be economic conservatism? Probably, right? Like allowing capitalist society to
That'd be like free market.
Free market.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I like the idea that when we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about environmental conservatism or economic conservatism and what's more conservative, like I gotta be honest, as the actual conservative in the room, when I'm sitting here hearing what y'all are saying, yeah, I don't give 2 fucks about him selling land to these people, especially if it's going to be good for ranching, it's going to be good for oil. Like, yeah, good, more power to him. That would be the conservative stance overall. Yeah. Because the economic trumps the environment.
Then I'm just gonna point out, Teddy Roosevelt, one of the greatest Republicans who ever lived, is the person who established the federal park system. And then it was actually Richard Nixon who created
Teddy Roosevelt was a
the Environmental
progressive.
Protection Agency.
Teddy
And
Roosevelt was a
so
progressive.
stewardship,
time.
environmental.
So wait, for his time, right?
So you could argue that something that was progressive
Hold on.
for like one time is conservative for like a
So,
different time.
hold on.
When we argue for conservatism today, it is different than the progressivism of like.
Well,
okay,
hold on. Would you argue that? Okay, if you're gonna
would you
argue that,
that Lincoln is a conservative of Like, would you argue that?
hold on. Let's.
Would you,
let's-
hold on.
No,
Hold on, answer the question.
I
would
would.
you argue that Lincoln is a conservative of today.
Well, by what's your argument? Sure, but hold on. If we're gonna go with your argument, and this is why this is really dumb. If I was to sit here and say we can look at any point in history and we can argue that there are conservative movements at any point in history for every form of government that's ever existed, right? So if I was going to be a traditional conservative, I don't know, Athenian, and I believed in the cult of Dionysus, then I would believe rampant degeneracy would be conservatism, right? At that time. And it would be accurate and applicable because I would be the traditionalist in that sense, as opposed to, I don't know, Paul coming in and pushing progressive Christianity that's going to go against our conservative national traditions. Well, hold on. In the sense it is that in that one chance, right? In that one situation. So when you're going to make this argument, it's dumb, right? Because you're going to go, hey, is Teddy Roosevelt a progressive? He is a progressive even under today's law. He is a progressive because the problem is when you argue the point that you're making, Teddy Roosevelt is a progressive by modern metrics as well. He expanded the national government, expanded national parks in the sense. He wanted more power for the federal government. We see this many, many times. And when we're talking about what's more conservative, getting rid of this stuff, the national parks, and shrinking the government is the conservative standpoint.
Okay, question, Admiral Gibbs. If you were
No. I don't want to get. We only got 30 minutes left, so I don't want to get spun up on a thing. I think that what Gibbs said, which I understand, and I do not agree with his perspective, but I understand it to be valid, which is that he thinks environmental conservatism is gay and cringe.
Yeah.
And so Trump in MAGA is not environmentally conservative, but environmental conservatism is gay and cringe. That's kind of
what group,
so
what conservatives in the recent, like, what conservatives in the recent, like, 20 years, 30 years, since the 90s, like, have ever thought environmental conservatism wasn't gay and cringe?
Richard Nixon.
Okay. Richard Nixon.
So
and what else?
Richard Nixon and Teddy Roosevelt, two of the greatest Republicans who ever ran for office, but that's not a problem.
I mean,
we don't need to get spun
Nixon's
up on
not all right. Nixon's not an environmental conservative. But okay, go ahead.
We don't need to get spun up on this.
Okay.
So what I would argue is, I want to tell Luke about Edmund Burke real quick, but realistically, that could go along with constitutional conservatism as well. So Luke, can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. So a guy, I'll try to be as brief as possible. There's this guy named Edmund Burke, who was an English statesman during the French Revolution. And he believed that the traditionalists, because traditionalism is different than conservatism, that the traditionalists in the French society held on to institutions that were dead, like the Catholic Church and like monarchy. And so as a result of them holding on to dead institutions, the revolutionaries got more and more rabid over time because they were constantly pushing for change that was never happening. And so Edmund Burke, although he articulated this in essays, he didn't say it one-to-one, but what Edmund Burke came up with, he's considered the founding father of conservative philosophy. And what he said is that conservatives should default to the status quo. Institutions are filled with centuries or millennia of wisdom, and therefore you should not take institutions and just throw them out the window. What you can do, though, as a conservative, so you don't make society so brittle that it falls apart, is you criticize progressive and liberal criticism of existing institutions so you can find out what the good ideas are and you can eliminate the bad ideas and you can institute good ideas over time. Because like it or not, there are some good ideas that come from all parts of the political spectrum. So I like Burke. Whether or not you guys like Burke, it almost doesn't matter. What I would argue, though, in reference to constitutional conservatism, that specifically with Donald Trump's attempt to violate the 12th Amendment of the United States with the fake elector scheme in December and January of 2020 and 2021, Donald Trump and anybody who supports him are not constitutional conservatives and they're not Burkean conservatives.
Admiral Gibbs, do you think that Trump wishes to respect the Constitution?
Yes. I think he respects the Constitution.
Do you think that January 6th was an
here we go.
Constitution? Yeah, January 6th.
Yeah, you tried to overthrow the fucking Republic of the United States. Yeah, here we go.
Bro, do we know we've seen right now something like, what was it, 290 or 200 some crazy amount of FBI agents undercover were there. We have videos now that have been released of the FBI agents allegedly
Connor and North.
Hold on. Allegedly. Hold on.
Lying or spreading misinformation.
Hold on. We have this. I'm sorry. It's not lying and misinformation. Once again, I'd like to point out the only one who spread misinformation is you two, because I posted the sources. The host can verify that, and all the sources are direct primary sources where they quote the people themselves saying it. That's important here. And so once again, if we're going to talk about who's lying and spreading misinformation, I think that's important. So when we're going to sit here and go talk about January 6th, right? The argument that there are not people, when Trump's running on the idea in January in his first term to clean out the swamp, that after appointing people after 4 years, that he's going to undo the last, I don't know, 2 administrations, right, of people that he thinks have been corrupt and that are going to work against him is crazy. And that's why we're seeing so much more change now with this administration, because now he's finally been able to clear out some of that rot, because they weren't able to recover all that bullshit over the Biden administration because they were inept. Thank God. And, President Autopan in the House. And when we go and see Trump come in here, he's able to implement a lot of the changes he wants by getting key staffers. And now we're uncovering the duplicitous nature of these undercover operations the Dems are running and all these things. So when Connor talks about the fake electorate scandal and, how long did I hear about how the Russian collusion thing was a hoax, and now we hear it's a true fact statement. It's basically clearly a scandal. How often did I hear Autopan wasn't a thing? That's clearly an issue. We're finding out more and more. We're finding out there was even alleged bribes for Autopan, right? We're going to keep going down the list. So when we're going to talk about all this bullshit, I don't want to hear that you're advocating for conservatism. And I just want to point out one more thing. If Connor actually believed in Burkean conservatism, which I still question as actual conservatism, the idea that whenever he says, hey, Trump is going to appoint social conservatives and they are going to push social conservative policies, which he admitted is happening, well, guess what? That would, even if he hates Trump, still uphold the values of Burkean conservatism, because they're going to be pushing for more social conservative policy, like a return to church or community or local level politics. That's something they would push, and they would push a slower, gradual change. So Connor is throughout this debate admitted Trump has done the things that he wants more.
It's just going to keep going if we don't.
Well, I mean, I'm done, but listen, okay. I'm sorry that you haven't made a valid point.
Do you think that January 6th was an inside job?
I don't know. I'm ready to find out more.
You're talking about undercover actors. That's what you're implying, though. Is that it's an undercover job.
Seems pretty interesting. I want to see more about it.
Hold on. The head of the FBI said that you're wrong.
So you mentioned like a court of law. Like, do you think a congressional committee is say equivalent in credibility to like a court of law?
No.
No.
No. Do you think they're equivalent? Like, I mean, have you seen some of these committees? They have people up there and they just scream at each other. You think that's like an actual like investigation?
So you would never use a congressional committee in order to like ascertain or?
I didn't say that either. I mean, it's one of the tools. Go ahead.
I was going to say, North, were you finished?
Well, I was just wondering if he believes. Do you believe in the elector plot? Like, do you think that was an inside job, or like that, like people are lying about that?
I don't have enough information to make a determination at this point.
What do you mean you don't have enough information? You say Connor's talked about it before. Have you done no research at all into this?
I have done research. I have not. I don't feel I have enough information to make a determining decision whether or not I think it's an inside job or not.
What information are you lacking that would prevent you from determining something?
I don't know. There's the plethora of information I think I would like to see.
Okay, well, what information do you feel like is lacking? Okay, so in you say you've done research, right?
Yes.
What research do you feel is like inconclusive or lacking to prevent you from like making a decision on January 6th?
Listen, there is a plethora of information. I'm going to say that
Not
again.
answering my
I'm not. I'm not answering your question. Yeah, because listen,
You're not, so you're not answering.
hold
my
on. You're
question.
asking me. You're asking. No. You're asking me to prove like a negative, right? Like I don't know what definitive information. Like, am I supposed to say? Okay, hold on. Let me give you an example. Like O.J. Simpson, right? People think that there was determining definitive evidence that he killed someone. Court of law found him not guilty, right? And for that reason, right? People go forward. He can say he was innocent of that murder. So when you're sitting here going, I need whatever. I don't know what definitive information I need because I haven't seen the future. As much as I claim to be a prophet, the Lord doesn't come down and actually show me vision of the future. I can't give you. I haven't seen enough to determine yet.
So like evidence that you would might find lacking would be like, oh, there was literally there's like a recording of OJ like killing his wife. That might be like evidence that you would like find lacking. So like
sure, I could make guesses if I saw them actually sitting here.
At the January 6th information, what information do you find lacking?
Bro, do you want me to list a million hypotheticals? Is that what you're asking me? Like this is really a dumbass question.
You literally said you'd be okay with making a hypothetical with like OJ, so I can't make a hypothetical with like January 6th. What information are you lacking to make a definitive?
There's lots, bro. I'm not gonna just sit here and list 20 minutes. Okay, I'm done.
You've done no research.
You know what? I have done. Hold on, that's cool. You can think that I've debated January 6th about every fucking panel for the last 2 goddamn years. If you think I haven't done any research, no.
Opinion, maybe, possibly.
Bro, let me ask you a question. Do you really like? You really want to go down this line of thought? Is this what we're gonna do again? Like I thought we were arguing about the conservatism, but fine. That's fine. Fine. Okay. Cool. Fine. All right. Well, go ahead, Connor. I'm actually going to turn to Connor because I don't want to deal with this anymore. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I think the reason why North and people like me are a little incredulous, the reason why we're upset, the reason why we've been talking about it for 5 years, is because Donald Trump claimed that he had evidence of outcome determinative voter fraud all the way back in 2020. He's had 5 years to prove it outside of court or inside of court. The argument for the fake elector scheme was that in 1960, the state of Hawaii was doing a recount where the vote was only down by like 110 votes, and they thought that JFK was going to win. So the certified election certified that Nixon had won, but Hawaii submitted an alternate slate of electors in 1960. And then it ended up that JFK had won. And so the alternate electors were not prosecuted. They were not found to be attempting anything criminal. But there's 2 problems with this. Number one, they were doing so in good faith with substantive evidence that they believed that JFK was going to win. Number 2, the election was not outcome determinative. Neither of those are true in the 2020 case. What happened was, somebody would have to remind me of the name, but there was a lawyer that was working for Trump who said that using Hawaii in 1960 as a model, what we can do is we can go to all of the battleground states where we believe there to be fraud that they've never substantiated, and we can go ahead and send our own slate of electors. And Vice President Pence, based off of the 12th Amendment, can actually vacate the vote. And if the Democrats try to challenge it, then the Electoral Act of whatever year effectively pushes it down to the House of Representatives. So not only could Vice President Pence unilaterally declare Donald Trump the winner of the 2020-2021 election, but if he fails to do so, the House of Representatives could choose Donald Trump as the president of the United States based off of Republican loyalty. So we came within a hair's breadth of Donald Trump and his lawyer, I think it was Eastman, stealing the election of our republic.
Okay.
There is nothing Burkean about that. There's nothing constitutional about it. And it's fucking wild that 5 years from now, Donald Trump not only promised that he was going to prove the fraud, he's had 5 years to do so. He's failed to do so in or out of court.
It's true.
So please tell me where I'm wrong.
I will tell you right, because once again, this is the problem I have with this, because you're sitting here saying all these things, and I think it's corrupt government
all these
fighting.
descriptively true things.
Hold on, I'm about to list some descriptively true things too, right? I'm going to sit here and list a few things. Ken Paxton has just filed a list right here with a ton of illegal immigrants on rolls as alleged voters right now, right? We know for a fact right now, I don't know if you've been following the news recently, but there was an illegal alien that was caught being a superintendent of a school district, right? guess what? This person is actually registered as a Democrat voter. So when I'm sitting here going, hey, I see examples like this, I go, hey, there's smoke, there's probably fire. And so when I see us going, oh, we're going to the fight the Dems are doing with redistricting, how they're sitting here trying to rig things, how they want illegal immigration, how they want us to fund, and this is once again, I posted a source of it, fund illegal immigrants getting health care for certain things. And this is a policy they've advocated for on top of that with the Kamala. So when I'm sitting here seeing these things and I see the game seems to be rigged and you go, can you prove there's no fake electors? And I go, well, I'm seeing examples of illegal aliens voting. That would also be subverting the American election system and winning a vote via a legal means. There isn't anything. Hold on. Are you arguing that we don't have right here? I can give you a specific name of an illegal immigrant that was a superintendent that's a registered Dem voter. Are you telling me that didn't happen, North? If it happened,
you can say that. Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, so then your next argument's going to be: is it not enough?
Registered Dem voter. That doesn't mean that illegal aliens stole the 2020 election. And there's nothing been proven that's been happening.
Hold on. We're finding evidence of Social Security cards being issued to illegal aliens.
Gibbs, let North finish. I will mute you.
You're making a claim, right? Okay, you say that there is a single superintendent who is a registered Democrat, right? That does not mean that the 2020 election was stolen by the Democrats. And sure, you could say, sure, you can. There's been actually, I don't think you even can claim that there's been voter fraud because there's been no evidence of voter fraud.
Hold on. If he's an illegal alien and he's a registered voter, is that voter fraud? Yes or no?
No evidence of outcome determinative. Here's what's funny. In Arizona, they claimed that they had outcome determinative voter fraud, and they asked Arizona to recount. What they ended up doing is they added more votes for Biden.
Yeah, crazy, because it's totally not like Exxon investigated itself for its own oil leak or some shit. But hey, that's a good point. But
but hold on,
my point is, hold on.
Connor and Gibbs, don't talk over each other.
Okay.
Connor and Gibbs,
Connor makes a good point. Connor made a good point here. He said he admitted that what North is not willing to admit, because I guess he's either not knowledgeable or lying. But Counterpoints is making a good point. He goes, there's no evidence of established outcome determinative voter fraud via illegal aliens. However, under what I was told by the Dems and people on the left, like Connor and North here, I was told there was no illegal aliens. It didn't happen. Wasn't a thing. Didn't matter. And then when I go and look, I see, we're seeing examples, more and more coming out now that the Trump admin is looking into this and Republican governors and their staff are looking into it. We're seeing more and more examples of illegal aliens being registered to vote as voter fraud, to the point that it may soon show that there is outcome determinative voting fraud, at least in local elections. And we have a case that actually proves this in Connecticut. There is the example that they now have a recall vote, and they've had to redo the thing because there's literal examples of Dems going to the ballot box and stuffing it full of fake votes. And we know this. We know that was outcome determinative at a local level. And my argument is, I want to see more investigation, because if we're seeing it at the local level, it's primed for the federal level. Can you show me evidence that there's no proof that there's outcome determinative yet?
See local areas being affected by illegal immigrants affecting the election, right? That doesn't mean. Do you mean by soon? You mean in the future, right? Not in the present.
It seems like we're having plenty of evidence that previous elections have been determined.
In the future, not as in is a trend that will be.
No, I'm saying that
in the future or not the present.
No, I'm saying, it's going to be provable in the future because they are looking back at previous elections and determining that there was voter fraud.
The 6 years, have they not looked back to, or 5 years since 2020? Have they not looked back to the 2020 election?
If you got elected via voter fraud, would you look into it?
The Trump administration literally.
Hold on. Who was in power the last 4 years? Hold on.
There's nothing to investigate because it doesn't exist.
Hold on. Well, that's interesting because I just gave you 3 examples that I can provide sources for of exact.
Hold on.
Well, okay.
Which is when you were
hold on, North. This is the question. One of them was outcome determinative, the Connecticut case, and so I have one example of outcome determinative at a local level. I have examples now of voter fraud that could become outcome determinative if we have enough. When I was told there was no examples of this sort of voter fraud in the first place, and so when you're sitting here saying, "Oh, well, we haven't," hold on. When you're saying in the last 4 years, why have we investigated it? Well, if you got determined, I think it's a pretty no-brainer. If you got elected via having illegals vote for you, would you sit here and investigate that thoroughly? No, obviously you wouldn't.
So we've for an entire year. Why isn't Donald Trump,
he's been in office for like 9 months,
not investigated this bullshit?
They are, and that's why we're having evidence of hearing. I have provided 3 examples. I have provided 3 examples. And there's more. I provided 3 examples, and there's more of them finding voter fraud running at a rampant level to the point it could become determinative in the last previous election. And you're sitting here going, they have nothing. Well, when you say nothing's come out, and I give you examples, that's something, isn't it?
There hasn't even been any like indictments for any of this. Like, there's been like no indictments.
What's the guy's getting deported? And we thought he did it. What do you mean?
What do you mean people are getting fucking deported? That's not an indictment for voter fraud. How come determined voter fraud?
Do you want us to waste more government dollars? Hold on. Oh my God. Do you want more government waste? Hold on. Once again, you're not a conservative because once again, you want the government to waste dollars on approving an additional charge.
Yes, I want the government. If you are alleging voter fraud, the government should investigate that.
We already have cases. I literally gave you a specific case where they had determined voter fraud.
Investigate the apparently massive fucking claims that the 2020 election was completely fraudulent. Like,
well, they're investigating it now, aren't they?
Well, you're saying like, oh, they should investigate it because they're going to be wasting tax dollars money. Apparently.
That's not what I just said. That's not what I just said. Listen, I know you're confused. I know you're confused. No. I've given 3 examples. I give 3 examples. One was determinative. And what I just said, since you're confused, I said in the case of the superintendent where they found evidence he was a Democratic voter, well, I don't give a shit if they add another charge. I just want him gone, and I don't want more money spent in the court. Let's just get rid of the guy, and we'll deal with the other problem. I pointed a definitive case in Connecticut. I pointed to a definitive case in Connecticut, and we have several thousand people in Texas. Ken Paxton's already found, which definitely was determined at a local level.
Yeah, thank you, Edward Gibbs. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Holy shit.
I mean, so you're clearly not a fiscal conservative.
We're encroaching on the about 2-hour mark. Do we want to go ahead and go to closing arguments or closing statements?
Do we do it the same order we did before?
Sorry?
Yeah, do it backwards. You do it backwards.
Or so Luke.
Backwards.
The Apple Gibbs corner.
Backwards.
We'll do the same order.
Oh, never mind.
Shout yourself out and give a closing statement.
Okay. Yeah. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, a never Trump Republican. If you enjoyed any of my takes or analysis, then go ahead and type in Counterpoints Politics into your search bar. You'll find my YouTube channel. If you're into Warhammer 40K, Star Wars, or science fiction, you can type in Counterpoints 40K. Got a pretty good channel over there. Counterpoint Star Wars and Counterpoint Sci-Fi I'm starting with, but I think I'm making good content, so go ahead and check those out. In conclusion, in reference to our conversation, I think it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, by sweeping for Donald Trump, are not Burkean conservative. They're not constitutional conservative. Otherwise, they would care more about what we just talked about in the past 5 to 10 minutes. In reference to social conservative, I will concede a part that Donald Trump is emboldening Christian theocrats and emboldening Christian conservatives. However, how far he emboldens them could actually be arguably bad for the country. I do not think that Donald Trump himself is a social conservative. I think he takes God's name in vain. I think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that he is credibly accused of being a pedophile rapist. And it embarrasses me that social conservatives are willing to sweep for him. In reference to neoconservatism, I don't think he's a neoconservative. I understand that you guys said he's hawkish on a few things, but I don't think that really the way that he's hawkish is in the most stupid and incompetent way possible. He's absolutely not a fiscal conservative. I think North and I, even if we disagree with this as a panel, I think North and I demonstrated that pretty clearly in the beginning of the panel. And then he's not an environmental conservative, which I would argue Republicans, Teddy Roosevelt and Richard Nixon, were both environmental conservatives. And so there is an argument for environmental stewardship in the conservative movement that I would like to see conservatives return to. So it sucks. I hate the state of the country. But, you know, it is what it is. So thank you for having me, and I had fun.
All right. Admiral Gibbs, shout
Yeah.
yourself out and give us a closing statement.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me here. It's been a good time, very fun. Yeah, I think that it's pretty clear who the actual conservatives are, who are the ones actually providing the sources, who are the ones being honest here. When one side provides sources and specific examples, and the other side waves their hands and says fugazi, fugazi, it's pretty clear which one's being the perfidious, duplicitous liars and snake oil salesmen. I would argue that neither one of these men are actually even rhinos. They're actually just dishonest Dems pretending to be Republicans. That's what's really going down here. I think that it's pretty clear when we look at social conservatism. Connor, even granted, social conservatism is maybe at an all-time high in recent memory under Trump. You know, fiscal conservatism, yeah, definitely going strong here. I mean, every single way we went through, I showed exactly how he was exhibiting these conservative beliefs and leading the way. And like I said in my opening, he's a populist, right? But he's empowered conservatives. And really the issue here is that these individuals don't want to vote down ballot for these people. And these people are conservatives. You can't claim to be the conservative and then vote down ballot for socialist leftist libs, or even worse, commies, or, you know, crazier and crazier. Now, finally, you can find me at Admiral Gibbs everywhere. We'll be having a cool thing. Connor mentioned 40K. We're going to be having the Pontius versus Majin soon. I think at the end of next month, arguing over who would win in a 40K fight between two different factions. It's a very fun, silly debate. Good stuff. We do wild stuff. We do all sorts of other good shit as well, like debate nights and panels every Thursday. So check it out. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. North, shout yourself out and give us a opening statement.
Okay, yeah, you can
Or
find me at
closing
YouTube at youtube.com/@northislive. I do live streaming debates like this occasionally. I'm trying to focus on uploading prepared content onto my channel. Recently uploaded a introductory video, which is basically what I want to achieve with my channel. You can find me on Twitter at @thatguysnorth. I think it's pretty clear that me and Connor demonstrated that Trump is not a conservative. He's a populist. I mean, even Admiral Gibbs said that Trump is a populist and not a conservative. I don't know how you can claim to be a conservative while openly supporting a populist. Sorry, I'm a little bit drunk right now because I had a couple drinks in.
Amen.
We did this very wild.
We couldn't tell.
I approve.
What a guy.
Yeah, we've seen the Trump administration increase the national debt to historic highs. We see them increase historic new tariffs, which are an import tax, whether you want to believe that or not. And Admiral Gibbs has even said that he wants to keep the tariffs in place in order to promote American industry. So Donald Trump has been a historic promoter of, as Admiral Gibbs conceded, socialist-like policies of taking over parts of American businesses. Donald Trump has instituted historic protectionism through giving subsidies to certain industries, which Admiral Gibbs also conceded is socialist-like. I would argue that's not conservative at all. And Admiral Gibbs also conceded that Donald Trump and MAGA isn't really neoconservative. I mean, they are against American intervention into other places. One of Donald Trump's main running campaigns was being anti-Ukraine, giving foreign subsidies to like foreign countries. So I don't think you can call them neoconservative either. And when it comes to social conservatism, I think we've very much demonstrated that Donald Trump is grifting off of Christianity, is not a Christian, and also that he's a pedophile. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing at all. How can you be a social conservative if you're a literal pedophile? Like, I think this is pretty clear. Yeah, I've already said my socials. That's the end of my thing.
All right. Luke, true Republicanism. Shout yourself out, buddy.
There's not really much to shout out, but yeah, no, I had fun. It was a fun night. I'm like mid football season right now, so I'm like struggling a little bit with keeping up with everything going on in the world. My head hurts a lot because I've been running headfirst into everything. But yeah, no, as regards to Trump, I would say that he's definitely an outgoing guy, say what you want about his social life, I would say is very not seen well as upon to a Christian mind. But I definitely would defend a lot of his policies. A lot of them are a little bit radical in a sense. But yeah, I had fun tonight. Thank you guys. Y'all didn't really let me speak that much, but it's all right.
Well, that's also a choice on your end as well. I tried to give you time when I could.
Thank you, Corbin.
Multiple times. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and thank you, audience, my very generous audience, and Connors too. They kind of rated in a little bit earlier, so I got some decent views on this. So I appreciate you guys all coming out. My name is Corbin Sales. You can find me on X, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all by the same name. Yeah, and thank you to my generous, excellent guests for coming out, and hopefully we will have all of you gentlemen back on at some point.
Your Counterpoints, really quick question. Are you friends with Destiny? I heard Admiral Gibbs say that. Oh shit. Let me tell him I said what's up.
Okay. You can DM me too.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, y'all be good. Thank y'all. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, guys, we're gonna sit here and let's do something, guys. What we're gonna do real quick is we are going to do one real fast thing. Let me switch over so I can talk to y'all. Sorry, y'all pulled up all my good stats here. Y'all see it's beginning of the month, boys. We're only 8 days in. I think we're almost at 100 subs already, so it's good. Destiny Bump's going strong. Apparently, they like to watch stuff. Oh, we got the wrong camera. Oh, hold on. Sorry, we're still figuring out new tech. I don't know what's happening. Oh, it's tracking me again. Yeah, so we got a new AI camera. Sorry about the mess. I just got back from my trip, and it has been a crazy hectic last 2 days. Look at this cool thing. It's so cool. I can zoom in now. Whoa! I can zoom out. We got all sorts of good stuff. Yeah, I had really, but not now. Boy, he's young. He's excited. You got to follow the new people. God damn it, we got to stop this thing. It's following me around. I got to figure out the programming. This is literally the first day I've been using it. So we got a lot to work. We're gonna raid, from one Destiny supporter to another. Let's raid fucking, because why not? I guess I think it'll be kind of humorous. Everybody just go in there and sing some songs about. We're gonna sing a song. You know what? I got it. We're gonna do this song to end it out. I think.
How do I start?
God bless America. And the only way to defend conservatism is fight the fights and the places where we need to have them. All right, boys. Y'all have a good night. I'll probably be back on in a little bit.
I stole an F-16, engines whining as the turbines chew. I stole an
We'll be back soon, probably for some gaming tonight. I hope y'all have a good one.
I stole an F-16.
Be good.
Horizon
Stay good.
centered, the line set right. I stole an F-16. Oh, watch the gauges and the needles climb. I stole